Hi everyone, welcome to Cow Corner Cricket Cast. I'm your host Pratham. I'm joined by my mate Rohan, and today we're going to be discussing the fourth day of this first test between England and India at Trent Bridge. Today's day of play was very interesting because it set up a thrilling finale for the fifth day, effectively, right? This is going to be a nail biter of a chase, in my opinion. And it has a lot to do with the fact that of England, by and large, batted pretty well, and were able to capitalize on probably the best batting conditions of the match to put up a score in excess of 300. It didn't start out really easily, though, right? Siraj initially and Bumrah bowled really testing, probing spells. They got troubled the likes of Sivli, and then Crawley, who Bumrah produced an absolute beauty. The ball of the day, in my opinion. Ball that just, came in and seemed a bit away to get the edge. And England did look a bit in trouble, right, after that particular point. But Sibley, he was dogged for a bit. And more importantly for England, there was a colossus by the name of Joe Root who came to the crease.
We have memed on Joe Root in this podcast. We call him Joe Fitty.
Yes. He's no longer Joe Fitty.
That's a little bit harsh. He's really not. I mean, now I'm just making jokes at England's expense, which is to say, England is basically a team of 10 people and Joe Root.
Yes.
Because let's be very real here. Half of England's lead is Joe Root.
Yes, absolutely. I mean,
quite literally, it was half their lead.
Yep, and he played magnificently, man. I thought, in particular, he, was helped a little bit by some wayward bowling at the start. The third ball he faced was he was able to drive through covers, get a really nice, shot going in. Hit 4 fours, I think, was within like the first 20 balls or something, and he was able to capitalize on the let off by Shardul and Manshami, who bowled fairly poorly, and fair play to him. He played magnificently on a pitch where, yes, the heavy roller had been applied, did make the pitch slower, but there was still inconsistent bounce throughout the surface. Balls keeping low, balls keeping high. He almost, edged one onto the stumps that bounced back from Siraj in that sense, but played magnificently. Yeah. And he, had support, as I said, from Sibley for a bit. Then, Bumrah, again, the man with the golden arm, got him with a ball that bounced a little bit from short of a length and nipped back. But yeah, I mean, at that point, right, even with that partnership, England were in trouble. They were effectively, the lead was like 30 or 40 for 3, right? And what helped at that point was that the support bowlers tired, and the likes of Bairstow and Butler were able to come in and bash a couple of runs. And they, were able to get, they were able to like capitalize on some overpitch deliveries. Yeah, some poor bowling. Thakur, who will come on to a bit later, lost some steam. Was bowling in the mid 120s.
Shami was uncharacteristically poor.
Yeah, really bad. It has to be said. Just completely out of sorts, wayward, completely out of the place. And Bairstow and Butler, who came after him, capitalized on that. And really, Bairstow had almost nailed a fifth, boundary, and it just happened to be in the air, and the fielder stationed at deep, square leg took the catch. Fair play. And then after that, Lawrence came in for a little bit. Again, runs were coming a bit easy, right? These partnerships were starting to build. But what really sort of changed the psychology of the match when England was, I think, about 140 ahead with 6 wickets that were gone, so they still had a couple of wickets to go in, was the new ball. And that new hard rock came in Bumrah's hand. He bowled magnificently, cleaned up the tail, took a fifer, and from a position of strength, you would have to say, a relative strength, from England's point of view, they ended up giving a target of 200.
I do actually want to pick your brain about one thing, Papa.
Yeah.
So, what's the whole deal with Sam Curran and Mohammad Siraj?
Yeah, I was gonna actually bring, I was thinking about that, and it's something that I was really, I'm gonna be honest, very concerned about. For those who are uninitiated, the entire context of the affair was he had a go at Barstow for a bit, and then Barstow got out, and then he came back, and then he had a go at Curran once Curran started smashed him for a couple of fours, one over point because he bowled a short and wide delivery, uh, and he had to go with him, and then started bouncing him. Which, to be fair, I think is a good strategy against Curran. I've been saying this for a while.
Yeah,
Curran is not the best player.
that's like if you had to choose one thing that Sam Curran is bad at in terms of batting, it's just dealing with the short ball.
Yeah, he's not very good at it, and you saw it today. He was fending off a bit awkwardly. I mean, he hit it at the middle of the bat, but he had to constantly just go up and try to fend it off or duck. Right? He doesn't have really any sort of good pull or hook shot to that. But yeah, I mean, just the constant verbals to him were completely out of character, and not for Siraj because he's done this before, but completely out of character for an Indian pacer. Because historically, our pacers have been very well mannered and respected on the field for that particular aspect. And I don't know, man. It was the thing that pissed me off the most about it, and I'm not going to lie, it came across as very boorish, was that it ruined his bowling for the rest of the day, because for the rest of the day he started bowling.
Everything was short and wide.
Yeah, everything was short and wide, and after that particular point, and he was getting the ball before that to have wobble seam, right? Like he was using the wobble seam really effectively that Anderson sometimes uses in these conditions when the ball stops conventionally swinging, and bowling with that upright angle. And he was doing significantly better than the first innings when he was just using the scramble seam. So for him to do that, right? I don't know, man. It came across as very immature, very boorish, and no excuse for that, man.
What he needs to stop doing is stop complaining when the other guy gives it back, right? If you're going to make a Snyder mark, and the other guy says, "Oh well, so and so, you're wrong," or makes another remark in the opposite direction, leave it. It's done. Okay, fine. He got the last word there. Unless he has something better, and you come back and right?
Yeah, because it didn't even come across as like witty, like the defense, if you will, for a lot of characters like this, right, would be that somebody like a Shane Warne would have like a very
no. I got the defense. It was just banter.
Yeah, which it wasn't. He was abusing him, and you can tell that. He should be fined by the match referee for a bit, and I know that's harsh to say, but I think that's the only way he's going to actually improve his conduct on the field, especially in these circumstances. I'm usually very very lenient in these sort of circumstances, because I think when you are a player of that sort, your emotions do come out on the field, and you may say something.
I'm all for emotions on the field of cricket, right?
But when you're repeating it and you're doing it to multiple players and you're instigating it, and there isn't really a causal factor apart from the fact that you're bowling, you got smashed for a bit, not excusable. I think we should move on from that particular topic now to another more infuriating topic.
Somehow.
Yeah, mate. I know you've been meaning to ask it. Just say it.
Why are Charlotte Thakur stands
a thing?
Just why? No, not what do they think, not how, not when or where, just why. Why are you the way that you are? Charlotte Thakur is at best India's 8th seamer. At best. Probably lower than that. How? And I saw on our slash cricket, people were like, "Oh well, surely we're going to pick Shardul in the test at Lords because he's bowled really well. He's taken 4 wickets." I'm like, "Yes, but have you seen the 4 wickets?"
Yeah, especially the wickets in this innings.
Other than the 4, have you seen everything other than the 4 wickets?
Yeah, I think the reason why that is a bit ludicrous to think that he bowled particularly great in this test match is because, as I was mentioning a little bit in the intro, he's the one who sort of let Root and a lot of the other guys who weren't Root, right, off the hook, right? He bowled a bunch of overpitched half volleys that were driven, bowled really wide, lost pace. He isn't able to consistently sustain pace. He starts out already with low pace around the early 130s, and then for a lot of the innings, he was bowling about in the mid 120s. He's short, so he doesn't get any bounce. He swings
It's
it.
not particularly skinny.
No, not particularly skitty either. And his line and length is all over, the place often, right? More often than people would care to admit. He did get 2 wickets today, but if you look at the context of those 2 wickets, they were both after ill-advised leaves, right? Butler's in particular was a horrendous leave off a delivery where once he had already seen Lawrence being dismissed off a bad leave. I will say this, he was able to get a little bit of reverse, and he was helped in bits and spurts by Kohli, who I do want to mention here a bit favorably in terms of captaincy. Reviews aside, I thought his captaincy was good in several other facets today. His field placements to Sibley in particular, having that short mid-on, almost like in a catching position. Sibley is known to be the sort of guy who works the ball to the onside, generally towards the pads, but he could get a leading edge, and especially against some of the I wouldn't call it slower bowlers, but some of the pacers on the side who are more prone to inducing that sort of inconsistent bounce, like Siraj was, for that matter, or even Bumrah was, right? It was a good ploy, and I thought there were just a couple other things which he did right as a captain. He instructed his bowlers to bowl straighter, because he knew that England had applied the heavy roller, the pitch had gotten slower.
Yep.
And that basically meant that this was probably the most subcontinental phase of the match. Obviously, it's not a subcontinental wicket.
It's not turning yet.
Yeah, it's not a subcontinental conditions by any means, but that
it's nice and slow.
It was slower, right? So the batsman had time to adjust, so you had to bowl fuller and straighter to give them that lesser time, and he did get that out of somebody like Shardul, for example, right? So credit needs to go to Kohli. We've been critical of his captaincy here today, but I think he got that part spot on. Shami, I thought, bowled really poorly today.
Today was the worst I've seen him in England, or seen him in just generally the last 3 or 4 years. Just really poor bowling.
Yeah, and specifically, he overpitched a lot, which in some extent is what we wanted from Shami. We wanted him to bowl fuller, but he was bowling half volleys at a certain point. Yeah. And the other thing about it was that when he wasn't doing that, he was bowling short and wide stuff, right? So it was wide both ways, and that didn't make the batsman play enough. And I think the few times
Sorry. Yeah, that's the thing with Shami. You want him to force batsmen to play because he can get that ball to just dance off the deck.
Yeah, and the fact that he wasn't able to exploit the reversing ball when Shardul was for a little bit,
it's a little bit troubling.
Yeah, I will say he was helped. He was a bit unlucky in the sense that against him, Siraj, a lot of the bowlers. In fact, I'm not only mentioning Shami here. Root was so sublime today in that century. I mean, we've already praised it before, but I think one thing we didn't praise nearly enough was the ability of him to be busy at the crease. So he only played out 2 maidens today, right? And that comes from the fact that he is able to, find gaps and take singles when need be. And also by the fact that his adjustments to his technique currently that make him go a little bit more back in his trigger movement allows him to actually play off the back foot on the offside around square of the wicket and behind it well, and he exploited that perfectly today because there were plenty of times where the bowlers were bowling a 4th stumpish line or even a 5th stumpish line,
and he just cut the ball late.
Yeah, very late, and it went to the 3rd man. Modern captains having no 3rd man is going to get me set off another day, but he bowled. But that exploitation was brilliant because and the reason why this matters, guys, is because it really matters because he could play at deliveries that guys like Sibley and all the other batsmen who are a little bit more technically deficient couldn't, right? When you're getting a delivery on 4th and 5th stump, you don't want to nick it, right? Especially in England where things can do a lot and this pitch has that inconsistent bounce. But with somebody like Root, because his eyes are so good, because he can ride the bounce with that late cut because he's playing it so late, he was able to get a lot of runs in that area and easing up the pressure from any pressure that was created from the fast bowlers. So once again, fantastic, Root. Hats off to you. But yeah, man, we talked about the match. Fantastic, days preceding.
Yeah.
It's setting up the final day. So let's talk about the final day. What do you predict?
I think India's going to win. I think India's going to win by about 5 wickets, give or take one wicket either way.
Yeah, fair enough.
What do you think, brother?
Me? I'm gonna get so much shit from my Indian fans. Or Indian fans in general, not my Indian fans, obviously. But I think India's going to lose. And I think it's going to be a really close, agonizing margin of 20 runs, like it was the last time we were in England, the first test match at Edgbaston where Stokes wrecked us. I think that something similar is going to happen.
I'm just going to interrupt you here. This is entirely, if this comes true, it is entirely because Shardul Thakur got it done. Unless he scores like a fighting 50 at the end of the day.
Wow, dude, you're being more critical of him even
that's
than
the
me.
only exception. He has to score a 50. He has to score a 50 to make this entire thing make any sense.
Okay.
Whatsoever.
On that note, guys, we're going to be taking your leave. It's been great covering this day of the test match as well. Stay tuned for the final 5th day where the result will be decided. And yeah. Take care, guys.
See ya.